This is Chance Jado of Hero Hero. I am here to discuss, as I draw, my future YouTube plans. As you have probably seen, I have been doing some hero topic videos, and I'm gonna continue to do those. But I've been thinking I need more than that. I need to really put out my stories, and I've been wanting to put them out as comics. I've been wanting to do them in other formats, but I've been inspired with a little help from my dad and brother in terms of ironing out the ideas. Is that I should just go lore video style, because there are a lot of people who do lore videos on mainstream stories, so why not just take the lore video approach for my stuff? That seems like it'd be the smart thing to do, and I feel like it'd be the best way to get all my ideas out there, even if I don't last long enough in this world to fully flesh out those ideas. Just to be clear, I'm perfectly fine, I'm not sick, but I just feel like I have so many ideas that if I tried to get them all out there, they wouldn't get out there. But I feel like doing the lore video approach would be the way to do it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over a general idea of the first bit of lore videos I'm hoping to do. And that is for what was gonna be my Toku Heroes style stuff, because I want to draw tokusatsu style heroes like Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, or Power Rangers as they're known in the West, and so on. Because mainly the Japanese transforming hero style. I've really liked that since I was a kid. Now I was introduced to Power Rangers, and they've always been my favorite style of hero. So I want to develop a universe that mainly uses them, but I also don't want to develop too many separate alternate universes either, because I eventually want to do a fantasy setting. I also want to do a science fiction setting, and sometimes Toku, especially when you do ongoing stuff like Kamen Rider or Sentai, delves into different genres. So I've decided the approach I'm doing, largely inspired by Warhammer 40k, is a huge, massive universe where you can tell all kinds of stories. And I don't mean a universe as just in a place to tell a fictional story. I mean a literal universe where it spans the cosmos, spans space in many different ways. I'm trying not to do too much in the sense of a multiverse, because that can be lazy writing, and although it can be amazing when done right, it's just not something I want to abuse. So I feel like, but a concept of like a mirror verse, or like a universe, or like a universe in which all energy comes from, or all magic comes from, that kind of a multiverse I think is okay, because it's not just an alternate a reality of our own universe. Also it is a universe unto itself, although it can also be a reflection too, but that doesn't have to be a reflection in the exact same way. I'll iron out those details as it goes on, but for now I feel like this is definitely the approach I want to do. Some lore videos set in describing my fictional universe set in an actual universe. But a lot of those stories will not span the cosmos. They'll take place on one planet, then one planet only, or at the very least a handful of planets it'd only be like the real space opera type stuff where it will span the cosmos. Right. So that is what I have in mind, and that's what I'm hoping to get into. And so, just to, because I neglected it, I am going to just describe what I'm using. I'm using Krita, a free art program. I'm drawing on my U.S.Amano tablet. I don't want to pick up the whole tablet to see what model, but that's what I'm using. Oh, what's this? I think I did something. Something's up. Trying to figure out what I did with my tool here. Ah, seems to be going now. Okay, I think I've got it now. Okay, maybe I don't. Ah, I seems you can turn. I just discovered a new feature in Krita. Admittedly, I haven't used Krita option. This button here will turn whatever you're using into an eraser tool. So that's pretty nifty. Though there's also an actual eraser tool. Though with that in mind, can I... No, it doesn't look like I can turn the literal eraser tool into an art tool. Oh, it was worth the experiment. Okay. Alright, back to it. Okay, where was I before that bit of distraction? Oh yes, describing the tools. Yeah, U.S.Amano tablet, Krita's the software, U.S.Amano display, I should say, connected to my desktop. I'm recording this through OBS, and what I am drawing here is something I just threw together. I discovered this Krita had some comic templates, so I'm just messing around with it. This is essentially concept art of my very first or what I should say, my first chosen hero to represent my Tokuverse, or the world, or one of the worlds that Tokuverses will take place in. Speaking of which, I need to bring up some photo reference on the side. Because I've drawn him before and I don't want to end up drawing a gazillion versions of him just because I didn't want to bring up photo reference each time. So, even with your own stuff, it's good to have photo reference of your own art. Okay, correct. Thank. Shouldn't be too hard to find, unless I did some rearranging between now and then. Ah, found it. Yeah, definitely gonna need to get some more reference down the road, but what I have now will do the job. Okay. this guy is very much patterned after Kamen Rider. Although this character is an evolution of a much older character that I had. Originally, he was my original version of made up with my brother Scarlet Spider character because we are into the Clone Saga back in the day in Marvel Comics. And spoiler warning, the clone died at the end. So it was a fan-made idea of my character taking up the mantle of the Scarlet Spider after he died. And now, which eventually evolved into a recycling of one of my brother's old concepts, which eventually evolved into this guy in order to be separate from any Marvel property, so we could use him without doing that. But I didn't just want to make a new Spider character, especially one that was clearly inspired by Spider-Man, so between looking at actual spiders for inspiration and looking at tokusatsu being my favorite kind of superheroes, I ended up coming with this design. Particularly even though this is what is considered the Showa era style, he has some Heisei era inspirations too, being Kamen Rider Faiz. And for those who don't know, Showa and Heisei are eras of in Japan. Showa era having been from like the 50s, 40s maybe to maybe even before that, right up to the end of the 80s. And Heisei being like the end of the 80s to the end of the 2010s. So those eras can last a while. But yeah, that's just the quick rundown on that. So combining inspirations from Kamen Rider Faiz, Showa era Kamen Riders, and of course, Spider-Man, specifically Scarlet Spider, I came up with this new version that, with my brother's help in terms of coming up with the name, we called him Web Attack Arachnus. So I am very pleased with him. I wasn't initially planning to use him as the start of my Toku universe, but as the writing went on, I realized he just wouldn't be a good fit to start the universe. My original pick wouldn't be a good pick to start the universe. So I decided instead I'd use him because I have a lot of history with this character and the initial versions of him. And I thought it'd be only appropriate that he now starts my Toku universe. So yeah, this is him right here. I really like the way he came out, design-wise. Almost forgot this detail here. I'll draw him again here. Try and do like an upwards angle shot here. So, now that I'm down with the now that I've gotten through the explanation of the character and how he was created, I shall now explain the world he inhabits. So, quickly getting back into the wider continuity that he's placed in. It is a massive governmental body. Haven't decided on what kind yet. But one aspect I have decided on, which I got inspiration from Star Wars, is that despite being a part of a massive galaxy-spanning government, each planet has its own government, has its own way of governing, its own governmental system. Like one planet will be a monarchy, another planet could be a republic, yeah, and so on and so forth. So that is the idea I had with that. It's that way, no matter. That way, I don't have to be truly consistent while still keeping things in the same continuity. Because government systems can really boggle things down when you try and justify things in the same continuity. And that's a way I was able to get around that. Anyway, this guy, for reasons that I won't explain here because there'll be big reveals in the story, but for reasons all his own, he left his homeworld and decided to what I'm temporarily calling Space Mexico. And not even like a proper real world representation of Space Mexico. Well, to an extent it will be, but like a run-down ghetto version of Space Mexico. I'm sure eventually I'll have a planet in that continuity that represents proper real-world Mexico in terms of advancement and technological level and whatnot. But for now, ghetto Space Mexico is where things are at. And the planet is ruled by a corporation with the secret agendas to advance the human genome. Our hero, this guy, shows up on the planet and not knowing a lick of Spanish, because yes, ghetto Space Mexico speaks Spanish there, or Space Spanish, however you would like to call it. And they realize, and he's having trouble communicating when he meets the main heroine of the story. And thankfully for him, she knows both English and Spanish, so she can interpret for him. And at least for initially in the story, that's how they why they stick together. But very quickly becomes clear that he has nowhere to stay, so she offers to put him up somewhere in exchange for work, probably as his bodyguard, because she's a young girl all on her own on a ghetto world. And ghetto worlds are going to be dangerous places in the universe. So, putting him up, she will. So, to make a long story short, because I want to save the long version for the proper lore video, they run into some trouble with an organization creature, a mutated human who is forcefully evolved into a monstrous being, hunting down a transformation device. And out of everyone there, only the main character, for mysterious as of yet revealed reasons, is the only one who can utilize the device and becomes Web Attack Arachnus and fights off the monster, saving the girl and the day. So that's the premise, I guess. And the transformation is essentially an old-style flip phone. If it were set in the real world, it'd probably beg the question, why not a smartphone? But being set in a futuristic sci-fi setting that can take place on a number of worlds with different levels of technology, that offers more than enough explanations for flip flip phones still being in use here or there. Some worlds are more advanced than others. Some worlds are probably at like World War One level of technology, but just barely the minimum amount to allow for people to travel to like leave world and go to other planets. Probably like a galactic public transit type thing, and probably some like extremely basic computer systems, but nothing so groundbreaking that it gets you out of the pseudo World 1 setting, or whatever setting it is. There'd probably be like old school night worlds, then those I would admit would have a harder time justifying. Probably something like the wider government not hoisting technology on them too quickly unless as so long as they're paying their tax or whatnot. Such details will definitely need to be ironed out as time goes on. But so far I just need the world that the main character is on. Although something I am gonna expand on, whether I make known in this initial story or not, is that there is a setting within this, a setting within this fictional universe, yeah, that'd be a better way to put it, is something resembling Star Wars slash Warhammer 40k, which is that everything the Tokuverse stuff does takes place in like the inner spheres, the inner rings, I guess, like the mid and the central rings of the galaxy, where all the threats they have to deal with come from the worlds within those spheres of influence, and occasionally beyond whatever slips by, which is which such threats are monitored by what's on the outer ring, or the outer spheres, which is where you see the more Star Warsy Warhammer 40k and maybe even some Star Trek inspired stuff, where where they have to battle hordes of aliens of all kinds, demonic incursions, though that one you can probably see in the inner ring because due to the nature of what they are. And definitely just anything that would be too much for the mid and central rings to handle. And things are definitely more bleak in that outer ring because of the constant fight to preserve humanity and the other races within from the outward threats that are from beyond the galaxy that this universe takes place in. So that's where you'll see more Star Warsy, Star Trekky, 40k type stories. Yeah, whether we touch too much into that early on or not, I'm not sure. But suffice it to say, that is that is something that will get touched into someday. But for now, the main focus will be a conflict in one of the mid-ring worlds, which is Space Mexico. Probably give it a better name down the road, but yeah, which is where this first story will take place in with Web Attack Arachnus. So I am definitely looking forward to having this story told finally, and seeing where things go from there. Will the stuff in this continuity be the only continuity I tell stories in? No, it won't. But starting out and as a long-term thing, that is definitely what you will see. But there are things in separate continuities I do plan to do. But for the time being, what I have here will suffice. So, I don't think there's much more to talk about here. Just wanted to get those ideas out there, and that I'll be pursuing those ideas, and hopefully I'll have them out there. And hopefully I'll get some more heroic topic videos out there, and I hope to also expand them into like further presentation type stuff where I'm just doing a video presentation on my topics as well, rather than just doing a video where I do a scripted where I talk out a script on the topic. I do plan to expand the channel more, and doing lore videos is one of them. Doing more heroic related stuff is another. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.